A change of scenery from the same old wizard deck that I've been running for quite some time now. This is another run-based deck. If you remember it, it's my silhouette deck that I've played a couple of times occasionally in previous videos. Now, the usual start for most HP engineering the future decks is install, gain a credit, or install, hedge fund. But it doesn't protect R&D, and so I completely exploit it with Desperado into Maker's Eye, but I see nothing. So, that being unsuccessful, I run into the remote server to gain a credit from Desperado and activate security testing. So this is a red flag for him to start throwing ice down and not to have servers that wide open. So a very good start for me, although I don't get any agendas. I have a good idea of what his deck will contain, particularly the successful demonstrations. It means I should be wary of all the end-run ice that's coming soon. So now, time to check HQ. I need HQ access so that I can activate my ID ability. I see the Eli. I'm not interested in clicking through it. Instead, I'll solidify my credits. In a single run, I bring myself from 2 credits to 8. How awesome is that? That's the punishment for leaving your EVE campaign out like that. And I'm sure he is going to take the appropriate measures to prevent me from exploiting security testing. So yes, security testing has its limitations. Once servers are iced out like that, I can no longer infiltrate through that easily. Now, you could say I made a mistake here. What I might have considered doing is to install the Sneak Door beta and attempt a run on through Sneak Door, through archives. The chance of him having an agenda in hand is pretty high. And I mean, considering that his early opening hand had nothing but a single Eli for ice, there's a good chance that he has an agenda in hand. So I should be running through HQ or using Sneak Door beta, but I did neither of those. Instead, okay, now I do it. I get my data sucker out and I begin running. And I see the Heimdall and I expose the R&D ice, a roto turret. Great to know. Very great to know. So no running until I get that Femme Fatale in my hand installed. And he continues icing up R&D. He knows that it's so-called porous because I actually know what's in R&D right now. I draw into an alias. Oof, that is awesome. I don't have to pay 9 for the Femme Fatale. So I'm considering whether I should run through R&D this turn. I decided that I should. So I get some credits and I run. The worst that could hit me is... Yeah, what's the worst that could hit me? I won't have any of my programs to trash. I have no clicks left, so the big bad Bioroid ice will hit me, and sure enough, it's a Heimdall. He loses a lot of credits though, so I'm perfectly fine with taking 1 brain damage. The Sneak Door that gets trashed, so at least I have another one in my hand if I need to use it. It might also allow him to have a false sense of security, thinking that I have no more Sneak Doors to play with, when I do actually have one in hand. So I run through archives for the security testing money, and if he shows the ice, maybe I can take advantage of that with a Sneak Door. So does he reveal the ice to me? No, he doesn't. Alright. I gain money, which is always welcome. The more money, the merrier. Against this kind of deck that is packing the big Glacier ice, it would be really good to have a lot of money to play around with. I have a York in hand as well. This is particularly useful now that I have 2 data sucker tokens ready, because York takes care of 5 strength code gates, which there are quite a lot of. You're talking about Victor most notably, and Viper. So I always want to maintain at least 2 sucker tokens on my data sucker at all times so that I can be prepared for Victor or Viper or anything like that. So yes, I do see the Victor from his hand, and it's very important that the York comes online. And I see the Heimdall protecting his EVE campaign. So yes, this definitely solidifies what I know of his deck. A lot of expensive ice. Should I have ran and trashed the EVE campaign? That's a good question. I do not know, honestly. Because even if I ran through that server and he reses that Heimdall and I trash the EVE campaign, it won't be long before he clicks up for credits and installs another EVE campaign in that same server. At which point, do I go in and trash it again? I think not. They always say it's very important to trash the EVE campaigns and Adonises, but sometimes you just can't afford to. This game, I should be using my credits on installing my Breaker Suite instead of running into EVE campaigns like that. Of course, the downside is that once I do not contest the EVE campaigns, I'm not going to contest the agendas that will be installed in there later on when EVE campaign runs out. Meanwhile, I run into archives for security testing, and he finally shows the EG there. He reses it to text me so that I can no longer safely security test over there. Or rather, I'm making a net loss with that run. But at least I'm gaining data sucker tokens, so that's fine. And he shows the melange, and yeah, since I let him get the EVE campaign off and he's off at 20 credits, there's no point in contesting him anymore. So now I just need to dedicate my efforts to the central servers and make a few impactful runs that will net me all the agendas that I need to win the game. So far I've accessed 6 cards, 3 from each R&D and HQ, but saw nothing at all, which was a shame. Yes, I get my Corroder online. Now you notice how few credits I have. If I chose to trash the EVE campaign instead, I wouldn't be able to get all this money to install my breakers. I'll just be delaying my inevitable loss. So I still think I made the correct decision. Looking at how many cards he has dedicated to asset economy, I really don't think there's any way I can challenge that. And you start to see why he runs successful demonstrations in his deck. Even in the mid-late game, it's very easy for a simple Heimdall res, a Victor res to completely stop me in my tracks. And that will trigger successful demo. Alright, so as I said, because I don't contest the EVE, he can begin scoring in that remote. I roughly know what's in that remote. The outer ice is probably a Victor. I saw it in his hand and he used it on that serve afterwards. The inner ice, I know is a Heimdall, and that's going to cost me way too much to break through. So instead, I will gain some credits myself. Count Cypher. Can he challenge me? Yes, he can. He reses that Victor that was in his hand. And as a result, I have to pay 2 clicks to get the Siphon off. It's not going to make a dent in his economy. I wish I had done the Siphon earlier. That would really have hindered him. It would have made much bigger difference. But at least I now actually have credits to install the Femme Fatale on whichever Heimdall I choose, or or break through R&D a couple of times. Because I know that R&D is protected by a Roto Turret inside, so I can get through for 6 credits each turn. So I get a York out, confident that it doesn't have any form of tech punishment, and he scores the ABT. A very lucky ABT indeed, because he gets an Ichi and a toe move out. So that pretty much completely seals up HQ and that remote for me. I'm kind of happy that he didn't do anything on R&D, because my next move, since he did not trash my same old thing, was to make us I run on R&D again. And you'll see that happening soon. I calculated that I needed 8 credits plus 1 sucker token to get through R&D, and 2 credits, one credit, two credits to use the Maker's Eye using same old thing. So all I needed to do here was to gain a credit and use same old thing. But instead I got greedy and attempted to security test the melange server. And I paid for it with 2 data sucker tokens, 3 credits, and I got 3 credits back. Totally not worth it. That was a very bad decision on my part. So what should have been an easy run is now one where I cannot make it through without suffering a brain damage. I break 2 of the end of the run subroutines of Heimdall, and he does not rest the Roto Turret. As such, I lose my Femme Fatale. that is a pretty heavy loss because the Femme Fatale can save me a lot of credits on breaking Heimdalls and like. And I see 3 cards, none of which are agendas. So that's my third multi-access so far, and I haven't seen any agendas. You have to think that they're in his hand, considering that he was so adamant about icing up HQ. And they probably are. But what can I do? He gets another agenda going in that remote, and I can only shrug my shoulders in disgust. I draw into a Dirty Laundry, which I cannot use. The most open server seems to be the Ichi server, but even then, I draw into another Dirty Laundry. What I probably should do is to security test archives with Dirty Laundry. That will get me 6 credits. I can spend my entire turn to get 6 credits. But of course, he immediately preempts that next turn by icing up archives. So even if I wanted to spend my entire turn gaining 6 credits, that's not an option anymore. So I just gain lots of money and I draw into an indexing. This is pretty important. It gives me another route to claw my way back through the game. Indexing is pretty tough though, because that means I need to run through that Heimdall twice. And you never want to run through Heimdall twice. Yeah. So I just keep digging through my deck and gaining money along the way, because there really is nothing I can do to contest it. I'm happy that he spent a lot of time solidifying his economy instead. He's spending time clicking the launch and now installing the Eve, so it's buying me time to build up my rig and my economy. Less forgiving court would simply churn agendas out through that remote, of which I cannot penetrate through at all. I can't even get through Tollbooth right now. I only have 1 data sucker token. Look at me, so pathetic. So I finally decide to Dirty Laundry R&D. It is probably a net loss in terms of money. Oh wait, no, it doesn't even go through because Inazuma. Ouch. Yeah. See, this goes back to me running that Tollbooth. Had I not ran it, I would have the 2 data sucker tokens I needed to get through Inazuma. Huge mistake. Huge mistake. And that also triggered his successful demonstration. So as if he's not rich enough, he is now. I'm struggling big time. This saved me a little bit. I find a data sucker. So now my runs are more equitable. Every time I run through a 5 strength ice, at least I'll be able to make ends meet, because I'm gaining 2 sucker tokens each central run. Alright. He beta tested and failed. He has no Jackson on the board. So if there are 3 agendas that he beta tested wrongly, I would be able to score them by running through archives. But I'm thinking right now, what is the outer piece of ice? If it's a Heimdall 2, I won't be able to get through. Not without suffering a lot of damage. If it's an Inazuma, I'm just flat out going to lose. I will have my 2 programs trash. So I was digging for the inside job, and I finally found it on the 3rd click with Plan Assault. But Plan Assault is a double. So I'm forced to face check that ice on my last click in case he has a Jackson in hand. And it's a Victor. Gosh, not having 2 data sucker tokens is really costing me the game right now. Instead of getting through to archives and seeing lots of agendas, what am I doing now? I gave him another chance to inflict 1 more brain damage on me, and I am sealed out from the server. That was so painful. Now I'm down to a max hand size of 1. How ridiculous is that? Oh man. I mean, it's definitely a misplay on my part. I should have ran that on my 2nd click, but I was really afraid of the Inazuma. I really wanted to find the inside job, and my deck was down to about 10 cards, so I figured I would get it eventually, but my luck didn't pay off, and I made the stupid mistake of running into archives. So at this point, I pretty much resigned the game, because I have 0 points, and he just needs to score 1 more big agenda or 2 small agendas to win the game. There's no way I can get into R&D or HQ. So, spoiler alert, I lose this game. You can see me attempting to fight it out valiantly towards the end, but really, there's no point watching on anymore. I'll tell you right now that, I mean, anyone in this game from this board state, you just can't recover. It's so unfortunate, because I accessed at least 9 cards throughout this entire game, and with an agenda density of on average 0.4, I should have 3 to 4 agenda points on average by now. This will at least give me a fighting chance if I access one 3-pointer or two 3-pointers or two 2-pointers later on. With same old thing into legwork or maker's eye, I would at least have a chance of winning. But right now, as it stands, even if I perform a maker's eye or legwork, there is absolutely no chance of me winning. Getting from 0 points to 7, that is impossible. So yeah, I lose. It's a very unfortunate game, mostly due to my bad luck, but also because I made some very greedy decisions that didn't pan out well in the end. Should I have played the Femme Fatale on R&D? I probably should have. I really didn't want to pay the 9 credits, but looking at the number of times I ran through R&D, ran through the Heimdall, it probably would have been more economical for me in the end. And it actually allows me to get through Ichis. The Roto Turret as well. It won't get me through the Ichis, but that's what data circles are for. So yeah, I probably should have played the Femme Fatale. Those are the biggest mistakes I've made through this game. Oh, look at that. Maker's Eye through R&D. 0 agendas. I've accessed at least 12 cards. Not a single agenda. This is just, the Netrunner gods are just humiliating me right now. I mean, at least give me an agenda or two for my efforts, my valiant efforts at running through his servers. Instead, my score pile is completely empty. There was no point in me playing this out. I knew that there was no way for me to win. I have no more cards left in my deck, so what I did was to impale myself on the Heimdall twice, and ended the game with me being brain fried. I'm sure he'll be happy to unlock the achievement, brain frying someone with a deck that isn't really meant to brain fry. Well, he would have won the next turn anyway, because the card in the remote was a priority requisition, which he would have scored next turn anyway to close the game. I can't think of any changes I can make to my deck right now that would improve it. It's just my play that should have been better, and a bit more excess luck would have really helped on the game. Right, sorry for such a dragged out game. I wasn't able to win early on, and it was a slogfest towards the end. But thanks for watching all the way to the end still, and have a great day.